Now, last week, the Office of the Tax Ombud celebrated 8 years of protecting the rights of taxpayers. It also coincides with the launch of the Ombud's educational campaign for this year to promote tax compliance and intensify awareness about the rights of taxpayers. The Tax Ombud, Judge Bernard Ngoepe, has described the anniversary as a milestone, and he joins us now. Judge, thank you for being with us. You say that in less than a decade of existence, the Tax Ombud has made a tangible contribution in the tax administration system. How?
Well, you know, when you have a listening capacity to people's problems, especially about tax, because tax is something that many people feel it as a burden. When your door is there open to people who come with complaints and you help them resolve those problems, what you really do is to encourage them to be tax compliant. They have a feeling that they are being taxed fairly, and that's very important. People need to feel that they are being taxed fairly. And then once they get that feeling, then they will be tax compliant. You know, in the past, people would have to, when they wanted to complain against SARS, they would have to go to SARS itself and complain to an office within SARS itself, against SARS. Now, the opening of the Office of the Tax Ombud was quite a milestone. In that people felt that there was an institution outside of SARS, and which was also independent of SARS, to which they could take their complaints. And we believe that by doing so, we help to create a culture of compliance. And in fact, there were tangible results for all those people, because over the years, we've been able to help people get some refunds from SARS, which went into millions and millions. And when people feel that those problems that they have are being attended to, they keep on coming and coming. And that's what we encourage people to do. We have, for example, in the past year, just only the top 10 refunds, there were in excess of 120 million rand.
Wow.
And this year, I think, is more or less the same thing, just the top refunds.
Yeah.
So that is something that encourages people to be tax compliant.
One of the biggest complaints, Judge, I remember a lot of controversy, was the claim that SARS was holding back people's refunds and they needed that money. Is that no longer happening? What's the situation?
It is still happening. We still get complaints of that nature, but the situation has improved very much in that regard. Not only the question of delayed payment of refunds, but there's also a problem. Sometimes people feel that SARS does not respond to them as timeously as SARS should. In other words, there's a time frame within which SARS should respond to people's, for example, objections. Sometimes, very often, SARS doesn't keep within those time frames. And we know, don't we, that once you are the one who doesn't keep to time frames, SARS would come down heavily on you with some penalties. And some of the problems relate to the fact that people make payments to SARS, and then SARS takes the money to allocate it, for example, to penalties and the like. Well, they may be entitled to do that, but the problem is that they don't explain to the taxpayers that you've taken your money and you have allocated in this way and that way. And people just get baffled. They don't understand why the money they pay does not seem to go towards reducing the capital debt.
Judge, you've been tax ombuds while there's been a change of leadership. There is relatively new leadership under Edward Kieswetter, and the presidency has certainly been emphasizing changes at SARS. Have you noticed a difference? Because I guess you would see that in the types of complaints, the amount of complaints?
Yes, we have seen some marked difference in improvement with regards to many things. I must say that the challenges that were there were some challenges during the period that you're referring to. But even as the new commissioner came in, there continues to be a number of problems, because you see the systems may be good, but somewhere along the way those good systems must be implemented by human beings. wherever there is a human factor, you are bound to have some problems because mistakes come in, and sometimes the level of skill is not up to standard, and some people have got poor temperaments towards the public and the like. There will always be room for improvement, but certainly there's been some improvement. I've engaged quite often with the new commissioner, and I believe this within the next 2-3 days we'll also be having a meeting to discuss other issues. But I'm quite happy for my part and on behalf of many taxpayers that the new systems that the new commissioner has put in place, they will go a long way towards addressing the problems. But there are still problems, and there is still a need for the office to continue to work to help people. And we encourage people to make use of that office. You know, sometimes it's quite frustrating when people come to you when it is too late. People need to understand that when you get communication from SARS, please react to it. If you don't understand, go for help. It's so frustrating to see people coming in when it's already too late, and you've got to tell them that it is too late. It's saddening, for example, to see, especially young people, especially in the entertainment industry. They just don't know, whether you think in terms of young soccer players or musicians and the like, they just don't know how to handle their tax affairs, and they need to be educated about that. Our office could do a lot in that regard, and it is doing a lot in that regard.
And hopefully media interviews like this remind people that you are there and willing to be helpful. Finally, you're also pushing tax compliance. There's been a lot of complaints among South Africans about, what do you get for your tax money, service delivery. What is your message to South Africans who believe that they may be justified in holding back tax if they can get away with it?
Well, I don't encourage anybody to hold back their tax, but I always say that people need to pay their tax, and I always say you must pay. You shouldn't pay one rand less, but at the same time, you shouldn't pay 1 rand more. In other words, there must be fairness. But it's very important, though, that people who pay tax need to see that the money they pay is being used properly. It's not being corrupted. It's not being used to benefit some other people and the like. People need to see that the money that they pay is being used to build schools, to build hospitals and the like. And in that respect, there is a duty on behalf of those who administer our tax to make sure that tax is being used properly. They've got that responsibility. And we need to tell them that you have a duty to use people's tax properly. I have said that many times, and many people have also raised their voices in that regard. They need to use tax properly. Otherwise, tax collection becomes a problem.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Tax Ombud Judge Bernard Ngoepe describing that anniversary, the 8th anniversary, as a milestone.